This is Hot Mike.
Hot Mike.
On the networks of WDAY.
WDAY.
Here's Dom Izzo.
Welcome back, everybody. Hour 2 of Hot Mike, ready to rock and roll as we look ahead to Thursday, which is like the ultimate sports day we have in our region. We talked plenty on the Bison. We've got the Class A tournament opening in Fargo. The Class B starts in Minot. The Ray Jays will lead it off at 1 o'clock with North Star. These games are live on WDAY. Our Redeemers and Bishop Bryan. That'll be the Battle of Minot private schools happening at about 2:45. The last game, Midway Minto and MPB, Medina Pingree Buchanan. But the first game of the evening session features Nelson County and the number 1 seed, Central McLean, the Cougars. That's the co-op of Turtle Lake, Mercer, Underwood, and McCluskey. I remember when Turtle Lake, Mercer, and McCluskey made it to the B a few years ago. Now it's all under one banner under Central McLean. Their head coach is Joi Anderson, who joins us here on this Tuesday morning. Coach, it's great to see you. Congratulations on getting there. Now it's reality. What's it like here, getting ready a couple days out from the tournament?
Well, actually, it's kind of a relief finally to make it. I mean, it's kind of a tough schedule to get here, and you need a little luck, and your kids have to play at the right time. And right now, our last game that we played pretty well. So hopefully it's going to continue for 3 more games. You
have had either been number 1 or close to number 1 all year. How have the guys handled that, knowing there's pressure there built in as the season's gone along?
Well, we talk about it all the time. I mean, it depends on who you play, and a lot of times, and we played some pretty tough games to start the season out, so that kind of set the tempo for us right away. And like I said before, I made comments about, you can walk around and say that you're a pretty good ball club, but you have to prove it. And, I've told them at the beginning of the year, we did prove it that we were a pretty good ball club, but we have to keep improving. And I think we've done that so far.
When did you have a sense that you got a team that can maybe do something special?
Well, last year we talked about it. I even told the kids when the season started last year that I said, you guys have a chance to make it to state, but, we got to keep improving. We got to keep having a good attitude. It's the most important thing, I think. And we did. We just kept on winning. Like I said, we were like 4th in our district last year, and we ended up taking a district tournament and taking 2nd in the regional. And then, of course, you always have those play-in games, which, like I always say, is that's just like the state tournament. I mean, they could have a Sweet 16 instead of 8, so...
The pressure of dealing with that, how much did that help for this year's team after what happened last year?
Well, I think, just being a little bit more mature 1 more year makes a big difference. And the game is so physical nowadays, and I think that was our downfall last year. It's kind of hard to teach kids to be physical. They just don't quite understand that part until they get older, and then it kind of falls into place with them. And I think that's a big thing that happened this year is that we could just handle the physical part of the game and not drop our heads when things didn't go right.
You mentioned the schedule that you've played. You beat Ray earlier, who's obviously there. You've played some teams that obviously had really good years. How much did that, quote unquote, toughen you up for what's to come starting on Thursday night?
Well, it basically teaches when you play teams like that you can't take a break. I mean, it's offense to defense, it's full court, it's man pressure, it's sometimes a zone pressure. You got to realize you got to react to some of maybe the lazy zone where you're wide open to shoot the ball, So when you play a good team like that can basically play the whole game, it gets you started saying that, hey, we have to work on this or work on that. And I think we did that this year.
How difficult is it to bring everybody under one umbrella together? You got guys from every single, 4 or 5 different towns. Describe the unique challenge that comes with that.
It is. A lot of people don't realize. They think it's kind of good to have, kids from different towns and stuff like that. But it's hard. It is hard to put it together. Yeah. You always got the parents that come with that, and different ideas, more different philosophies and stuff like that. But we do a lot in the summertime. I kind of push, open gym. We do it once or twice a week for sure. If I get like 8 or 10 kids, we'll have open gyms for them. So they do play a lot of basketball together, and being dedicated kind of brings that together. And I think that helps a lot.
I remember Turtle Lake, Mercer, McCluskey going in 2017. How much you bank on that experience? I know it's almost a decade ago, but can you use that at all or no?
Well, I think it's just the idea that, maybe we haven't been there for a while, so it's about, it's time to get there again. And I do talk about that team because that team was not what you call the most, how do you say it, without being so mean. They were just, they were a good ball club. They played well together at times, but they also struggled at times too, and it was more of a shock the way the state tournament is played, being so physical and rough and things like that compared to this year. Hopefully a little bit more prepared for that.
To have this whole year be unbeaten, and now you're there at state, how much is there added spotlight, certainly attention. You're number one. That you've got an unbeaten record going to the Class B tournament. How do you handle that? Because I'm sure the guys understand it that you haven't lost a game.
Yeah, I kind of wish I could throw that out the window. I'll be honest with you. I mean, I'd rather go in with 7-8 losses, But I just keep telling them, the record means nothing. You got to go out and play 32 minutes or overtimes or whatever it takes. If you choose not to sprint down the floor, you might give up a couple buckets. Yeah. And if you don't plan on sprint down, cover a 3-pointer. Nowadays, a 3-pointer is like shooting free throws for most kids. I said you got to cover them. Stop the penetration. Take baselines away and, front guys. And you got to do all the little things to win ball games, rebounds. And I keep telling them that.
Last week, you won the Region 4 title. You beat Wilton Wing, who obviously went to state last year. Describe that night, winning the region championship and knowing you were going to the state tournament. What was that like?
Well, Wilton Wing's got a tremendous group of kids. They got a great coach over there. They always bring it. You definitely can't lay down. You got to play all 32 minutes against them, and they got shooters, big kid, ball handlers. Ursley's a heck of a ball player over there, and we match up with them real well, and they match up with us real well. And we hit some main 3-pointers during the game, and that kind of gives you that 10-point lead, and we held on to it. So.
The celebration afterwards, was there a sense of relief, I guess? Maybe you made state first time, and what was that like for you personally after the game?
Yeah, it's been a long week. We didn't play real well the first 2 games, so we were due to play a good game finally, and we actually did. And there's been a lot of pressure on me this year. It's probably the most I've ever had. I mean, it's like you just take it home with you and you get up with it, and you think an adult could probably brush it off, but it kind of hangs with you.
How have you handled that? Knowing and the pressure ramps up every game, and now here you are at state, you still haven't lost.
Well, like my goals are basically to tell the kids is just make it to the regional tournament, because good teams can make it, poor teams can make it, average teams can make it. It just takes somebody to have a bad game and you to have a good game, and I keep telling them that once you make it to the regionals, anything can happen, and
Give us a couple of your standout players, guys, you're going to be counting on come Thursday night if you guys want to win this thing.
Well, that's one thing about it. I have a pretty good group. I got 5 really good starters. Of course, Aiden Hansen is probably the leader on there. He basically kind of controls everything. He runs everything. He's not afraid to take a second place against somebody else and let somebody else go score and light it up or get fast breaks or whatever. He's just a unique ball player. And then I got Britton Bach, basically loves to shoot threes. He has no distance, doesn't bother him. He eyes it in and he lets it fly. And of course, my always pet peeve is, you stand at the 3-point line and shoot it, but it's kind of like, I can back up and I'm wide open,
Right.
So he's good at it. And basically the rest of the guys are, they all can handle the ball well. They can run backdoor cuts. They can sprint down the floor. They all play a pretty good defense. So, and I think the big thing for us to be successful this year is to play good defense, because the games are so physical and low-scoring games.
Tell us, what do you know about Nelson County? That's who you got, and how much you've been trying to find out since they qualified on Saturday.
Well, they're a big group of kids. They got some big kids in there that like to post up a lot. They play man-to-man. They can shoot the 3-pointers. They play the whole ball game. They play a little bit of zone. So I love playing a zone. I'm old-fashioned, so I mean that's right up my alley. So everybody tells me you can't play a zone, but yeah, I like a zone still. So
it's working, right? Then why change, right?
Yeah.
Tell us.
Got to keep changing little things, give them different ideas,
Getting, we were talking off air about the trip to Minot. You're going to do that tomorrow. The anticipation of getting on the bus and going to the Minot State Dome, which is what everybody wants to be this time of year.
Yeah, it's exciting for the kids, with the schools around or the towns around us, you get a lot of support from them, and which is really good, because, a lot of times in the regional tournaments, it gets kind of quiet with your support, because we had to drive all the way to Killdeer for it. Oof. So you kind of lose a lot of the support, which kind of hurts. People don't realize that, but even some of my kids as Jeepers coach, there's nobody here, which is kind of a bad thing. But I mean, that's just the way it works out sometimes. So I think they're looking forward to all the excitement. They'll have a big pep rally for them, and all the kids will be there. So
to have the first, and you're playing at 6:30, it's a normal time. I know some don't like that 1 o'clock game. You okay with, it's a normal time when we normally play a 6:30 game on Thursday night?
Yeah, that was one good thing about being ranked number one. That kind of helped us get in that position because in the old days, basically, you always wanted to win that first game so you could get that night game
Yep.
and be back to normal again. So, I mean, it means a lot to play in the afternoon like that. Or in the evening, I mean.
When I guess for our last question here, you anticipate a ton of people going to be there, and just getting out there, shoot around on Thursday for the guys to look around and say, all right, we're here. How do you take, I guess, the awe moment out of that and just, hey, it's basketball. We got to get ready for that tonight.
Well, I always go back to back when I played basketball. I always said that, when I played basketball, only thing I realized there was two baskets basically. I never heard the crowd hardly at all,
Yeah.
I mean, you heard the whistle basically, and I always tell them, once you start playing this game, it'll just be those two baskets and the guys you're playing against and with, and it'll just get quiet. It's amazing. I said, how you just don't focus on the crowd anymore.
The excitement level for you personally, you've done this a long time. Will you be nervous, butterfly a little bit? What do you think your emotions will be before tip-off on Thursday?
Well, I kind of get it out of my system, but then when someone calls me or someone starts talking, I like to say, "Hey, just shut up for a while. Let's just go back to life the way it's supposed to be," because then all of a sudden you're hyped up again, and then pretty soon you mellow out, and it's just a roller coaster, I guess you'd say.
That's what comes with going to the State B, right?
Yeah, that's right. You got to keep remembering it's all about these kids. I mean, that's the most important thing.
Well, I appreciate the time this morning. Thanks so much for doing this. Safe travels to Minot tomorrow, and good luck on Thursday night. All right.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Coach. Coach Joi Anderson joining us from Central McLean. That is the co-op of Turtle Lake, Mercer, McCluskey. I don't know what. I remember when they made it in 2017. I was calling the Class B there, and literally I got photos sent to me from Main Street in, I think it was Mercer, and literally there was tumbleweeds could have been going through. The whole town was shut down. And that time, if I remember right, and I'm sure if somebody's watching, correct me, but I think they played the mid-afternoon game to that 2:45 game. And it was as loud, and it was in Minot that year, it was as loud as you could imagine it. It was a big, big deal. So now, here comes Central McLean, number one, unbeaten all season long, and they've beaten already a couple teams that are there at the tournament. Eric, if you have a second to put the bracket up when you can, it'd be great. That they have taken on all challengers, and now here you go, their three biggest games of the season in front of them, and this is not an easy thing to do. We have seen teams come to state unbeaten and seen them, frankly, lose. I remember that Four Winds Minnewacan team that got beat by Kindred in 2021, that everybody expected Four Winds to win it. Kindred beat them in the semis, and that was earth-shattering that happened. That Ray team we've already featured on Hot Mic a few weeks ago, that has some electric athletes. Ty Barman is going to be under the microscope. He's the standout for Ray that already has two football offers, one from the University of Minnesota, the other from North Dakota State, as a freshman to play football. He's a fantastic basketball player. North Star has had a great lineage of players at the Class B. The Bearcats are back. That's Can-Do area there. I mentioned you've got the Minot private school battle at 2:45. That's happened more than you think. I'd have to count on the top of my head. I've called at least two of those games between the two Minot privates there with our Redeemers and Bishop Bryant. Bishop Bryant, of course, right next door to the Dome. Our Redeemers had a great run. This is again dating myself. I think 2016 they made it to the state championship game. Their first time there. I think they lost to Four Winds that year. We mentioned Central McLean and Nelson County, and that last one should be maybe the best one of the day. Midway Minto is going to bring a ton of people because they've never made it as a co-op. That's a big deal as well. And Medina Pingree Buchanan, I believe they're the Thunder. Their girls team made it to state a few years ago. Good to see that the boys made it as well. So that's the lineup. Begins on Thursday night on WDAY. The semis are in the afternoon on Friday afternoon, and then we tip off our last basketball high school state championship game, 8 o'clock on Saturday night. I always remember when we were doing it, we got to the Class B, like when we got to semifinals, like, all right, the end is in sight for us on what's been a long month, and I'm sure for our crews they're figuring the same way with that. And don't forget, of course, the Class A, which will feature that on the show tomorrow with the games coming up at the Fargo Dome. It'd be busy on the north side of Fargo on Thursday. We got the Bison Pro Day happening on Thursday morning / afternoon. We'll be up at the indoor facility for that. The Bison women play at the Shack, and I had a couple people email me saying they had heard Shields Arena was hosting the game. No, the game is at Shields Center Thursday night, and then across the street, you've got the State A basketball tournament going on at the Dome. So get there early, as they like to say, for parking-wise for what's coming up later this week. All right, we'll break here. We come back. We had a couple emails to get to. We'll update on a few other things as well on this Tuesday morning. Final 40 minutes of the show. Back after this.